news is moving in one direction, and it is forward, telling the world he is all in. Can he lead the Packers to the Super Bowl? The boys and the Bucks kicking off the regular season. Why is Jerry Jones calling it David versus Goliath? And the Lakers' new big three, Bron, Brow, and Brody. Can they get LeBron another ring? Good Monday morning, everyone. Welcome to First Things First. Jenna Wolf. We got our guy back. Nick Wright, Brandon Marshall, Kevin Wilds. Buddy, we missed you. I can say it. I'm woman enough to admit it. How was your week?
Oh, how was my week? Well, it was the most financially and emotionally devastating week of my life, Jenna. Aside from that, it was great. Glad to be back. Let's just keep going. Other than that, we're in great shape.
Oh, well, we did, in fact, miss you, Nick. Good to have you back.
Yeah, thanks,
In
Jenna.
your honor, let us start in the NBA, your favorite sport. We'll talk some Kawhi Leonard. So, guys, Kawhi set the groundwork yesterday for a possible exit from the Clippers, reportedly declining his $36 million option for next season, making him an unrestricted free agent. Now, the expectation is he'll stay with the Clippers, negotiate a new deal, but it was reported he will be listening to other teams. Chris Haynes had this on the Kawhi situation. It would not be out of the question for Leonard to envision a brighter basketball-playing future elsewhere. But LA is his home. He will be rehabbing all season, and he can make more money from the Clippers than anybody else next summer. The decision seems clear, but no one in the NBA is more opaque than Kawhi Leonard. All right, Nick, plain and simple, what do you think Kawhi does?
Well, we are all guessing when it comes to Kawhi, and Chris Haynes alluded to that.
Always.
But if I were a Clippers fan this morning, I would be thinking two things. The first of which is, why, God, did you make me a Clippers fan? What did I do in a previous life to deserve this fate? But the second thing I would be thinking is...
Throw that in there.
I'm a little annoyed. I'm just a little annoyed with the ongoing Kawhi Leonard saga. So Bobby Marks wrote it all up before the offseason began. The best thing for him financially, which also was the best thing for the Clippers, would have been for Kawhi to opt in and immediately extend for a 4-year deal. It would have essentially been 5 years, $217 million. He didn't do that. The worst thing for him to do financially would be to opt out and then sign a 4-year deal. 4 years, 176. He would essentially be leaving $42 million guaranteed on the table. So all that leaves now, and what is the most likely option if he stays, is he signs a 1+1, a 2-year deal that's really a 1-year deal for $40 million a year, and then goes through this whole process again next year when, by the way, he likely won't even play this season. And so I think he probably stays with the Clippers, and I think he probably doesn't play at all this year. And I think the Clippers are going to look at this and say, so we will have had Kawhi Leonard for 3 years at max money, traded all of our future flexibility to get the guy he wanted in Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard has been on the court for 2 first-round playoff victories, and that's it. And so I think he probably stays with the Clippers, but I do not know, Brandon, that the next game he plays is with the Clippers, because I don't know that he's playing this year, and I think he's going to be a free agent again in 1 year.
Yeah, well, the point on, living up to expectations, basically, did Kawhi Leonard get it done? I think there's so much to unpack there. Wasn't the ideal situation when you look at COVID and them going into the bubble and not wanting to be there. And then last year, I think they turned it around and then they got hit with injuries in the playoffs. But, Nick, you hit it on the head. It's a 1-and-1, and he's in position to sign a 5-year extension in 2022 for around $235 million. Why is that important? Because the player has the power when it comes to free agency. In the NBA and the NFL, so many guys fought for free agency, fought for this time. Now, the tricky part, Wilds, is, him coming off of this ACL surgery back in July. most thought that because of the injury, he would be, opting in, right? Because there's too much risk there. This guy's 30, and he already has some injury issues, right? We're already talking about, well, for the past few years, we've been talking about load management. So the easy thing was to opt in. This dude is betting on himself. This dude is going out there and saying, I don't care about the July 13th ACL injury. I'm going to go out there and do what's best for me and put myself in position to actually make more money longer. So that's what we're seeing Kawhi Leonard do, and we're seeing other guys in the NBA do the same thing. Chris Paul, CP3. CP3, 36 years of age. Why are you opting out, right? So guys are betting on themselves, and I truly believe guys like Kawhi Leonard and CP3 will bet right.
Yeah, I think the bet is right, Brandon. I think they're betting on themselves, and I bet that they end up staying with their respective franchises. And Nick, the NBA offseason is filled with a lot of drama, but this is one of those dramatic episodes that you see sort of coming like, oh, I kind of knew that from the first few minutes of the show. The reason people leave are cash, city, and championships. We know Kawhi can make the most money with the Clippers. We know he's from LA, and we know they can contend to win a championship. Debatable. Now, I know he's listening to other offers. I think Mark Stein said Miami, maybe Dallas, but I think they're listening to offers like how I'll listen to your suggestion that we go on like a family cruise. Like, I'll listen to it. I don't think there's any chance of it happening. I'm not a cruise guy, but I will listen. But I'm not giving that any credence. The question for you is this. Do you think, when we talk about cash, city, or championships, that Kawhi has a legit shot at winning a championship? Because I feel like the optimism in the building is very different than the optimism outside of the building. I feel like Ballmer and Kawhi think they can get it done, and I don't know if anyone else does. Do you?
Well, I mean, you're asking me to look on a multi-year time horizon. Do I think they could ever win a championship in Los Angeles with the Clippers? Yeah, I think they could at some point. But I think next year is already scratched out. And then Kawhi's 31 with the injury history. Brandon, you're talking about Chris Paul opting out of the $44 million. He's going to sign an extension or sign a deal, either an extension or somewhere, immediately this summer. You're right that if Kawhi were to sign, the most money he can make is the 1+1 opt out, and then 5 years, $230-some million. I am not as confident as you are that will be there for him. I think the Clippers are, let me call it, I mean, 5 years. So we're talking about 5 years plus this year that's coming up. So 6 years. You're talking about paying
36.
Kawhi Leonard in his age 36 season, $50 million. This is a guy who you found out he had surgery through Skip Bayless. Well, okay, but I don't think the Clippers are thrilled with how Kawhi handled his injury, and it doesn't seem like Kawhi is thrilled with how the Clippers handled his injury. We have seen that story before, and it ended in a divorce with San Antonio.
No, this is not the Spurs saga. This is not the same deal. Look, yeah, there were some gripes that came out of there in the playoffs, but then they answered that, and everything is fine now. It's not that serious. But here's the deal. LeBron James is how old, Nick? 36, 37 years of age?
36.
Will you pay LeBron James
36.
45, 50? Yeah, how much are you willing to pay LeBron James right now? Right? Like, we know them two going head to head is a great matchup. This dude... But come on, man. We know who Kawhi Leonard is. So many players, deal with injuries. Yeah, he's not LeBron when it comes to injuries, and we're talking about surgeries. But at the end of the day, surgeries and injuries come with the territory of being a professional athlete. So this is just one of those seasons where he has to deal with that. But Nick, I think the problem is that he looks and almost acts older than what he is. He's only 30 years of age. So think about that.
No, that's true.
Him going out there and doing a 1-on-1, and then coming back and do a 5-year, that's right there. That's reasonable.
Well, Brandon, that's reasonable. Let me tell you something that's also reasonable that should, get some of your neurons firing. He signs the 1-on-1, doesn't play this year, next year opts out of it, says, hey guys, I'd like that 5 years, $235 million. And that same summer, after another tragic postseason, James Harden says, you know what? This Nets thing's not as fun as I thought. I'm a free agent. I'm from Los Angeles. I'll come home and I'll take his spot. If I'm your Clippers a year from now, listen, what if Durant, Harden, Kyrie, Beal, Butler, they're all free agents a year from now. They're all free agents a year from now. And what I find interesting is Kawhi can assume that money will be waiting for him. I don't know that it will.
Okay, so what does he get in free agency?
Guys that might say, "I'll come."
So okay, if he have to leave,
he'll get the 4-year max.
LA,
he'll get a 4-year max.
Okay,
he'll get a 4-year max, but that'll end up being less than he could be getting right now by opting in and signing the extension. So I don't know if this will work out money-wise. I think he might leave a few million on the table, Jenna. We'll see. Harden coming to the Clippers.
So just to recap, we don't know what Kawhi's going to do.
Every time you have one of those takes.
And nobody's taking a cruise together. That line went really well. We got to talk some football. A lot going on in the world. Carson Wentz, sidelined with a foot injury.
You and I can take the cruise.
In Indianapolis. All right, that's that.